Hello everyone, this is Saurabh Sharma. Let's start with the current affairs of 2022 January 14th. In this series, in this video, we have some important topics, some concepts related to prelims like expert reaction to pig heart transplant in humans. The context is in a first of its kind surgery by the University of Maryland Medicine, a 57-year-old patient with terminal heart disease has received a successful transplant of a genetically modified pig heart. The nothing much to be seeing here, but why was a pig heart chosen? Pigs are considered for several reasons. The size and anatomy of the pig heart is roughly the same as humans, though there are considerable differences. Pigs can be bred intensively with large litters, meaning the number of available organs could be increased rapidly. The use of pigs is considered by some people as acceptable because of their production for food. Keeping pigs in sterile condition is relatively easy, despite common public perception. Primates fell out of favor in the 1990s because they were susceptible to virus spread. This brought pigs into the spotlight. Here the term which is important for us is xenotransplantation. This is important for prelims because this might be asked at what is xenotransplantation. The xenotransplantation is any procedure that involves the transplantation, implantation or infusion into a human recipient of either live cells, tissues or organs from a non-human animal source. Number one. Number two is human body fluids, cells, tissues or organs that have had ex vivo contact with live non-human animal cells, tissues or organs. That is number two. So anything which is related to transplantation, implantation, and third is infusion into a human recipient, that is known as xenotransplantation. So nothing important here, just one thing to just take a quick look that okay, this one term is also coming from this area. Now there are some geographical faults name given which might be asked in UPSC, and that might be asked that in which region these faults are lying and what are the faults. Spectacular landscape changes detected due to earthquakes. Major earthquake events in last 30,000 years resulted in spectacular changes in landscape of the Control Hill Fault. We have to keep this in mind. Control Hill Fault in the Kutch region of Gujarat. A study conducted on sediment samples revealed. So we have to keep in mind that what is Control Hill Fault and where is it? It's in Gujarat. Now, seismicity in Kutch region is highly complex. It's basically the earthquake zone, seismic zone are the zones where the proneness of any area to have the earthquake issues, that is known as seismic zone. For example, this is India, southern region. So there are fault lines which are going across the Indian subcontinent plate. So these fault lines are basically known as the seismic zones. All right, just to give you a brief idea what are the seismic zone. So seismicity in Kutch region is highly complex as it is characterized by multiple seismic sources. So what are those? Real-time monitoring of earthquakes. Since the occurrence of devastating 2001 Bhuj earthquake, this earthquake of 2001 was of magnitude 7 plus during that time. When the magnitude of the earthquake, the intensity goes over 7, it is highly catastrophic in nature because that creates massive destruction on the ground. And this is what happened in 2001. It was 26th of January, right on the day when Republic Day was being celebrated, and on this date only I believe, I remember that it was Sunday, and by morning 8 o'clock this earthquake, somewhere around this time, this earthquake actually came, and thousands of people were buried, killed, and many people actually got displaced, and almost the entire Bhuj region was in catastrophic danger. This monitoring of 2001 Bhuj earthquake indicates that most of the faults in the region, that is Kutch mainland fault, South Wagad fault, Gedi fault and island belt fault are seismically active. We have to remember these faults, that where are these faults are lying for prelims. Kutch mainland fault, South Wagad fault, Gedi fault and island belt fault are seismically active. Seismically active means that earthquake related activities phenomena, as this danger is still positive here, that any time sooner or later this earthquake can come in this area of the seismic zone. However, seismic activity along other faults like the Control Hill fault is not apparent, thus making the task of seismic hazard estimation and mitigation in the region a scientifically complex process. That means that this Control Hill fault, we do not have any specific data just a second. We do not have any specific data about this process, so we have to just see that in the absence of such issues, this data study is not at all easily available. Therefore, we are having this issue that here the problems to be understood is quite a critical issue. Right now, this research was made possible through high-end scientific equipments funded mainly under the FIST program of the Department of Science Technology, Government of India. So the complexity of the seismic zones like Control Hill fault, due to absence of specific study, data, research or other endogenetic forces and phenomena in the region, is making it a complex process. Therefore, it is still a dangerous region that humans cannot prepare themselves of what danger that we don't know. Now, faults. A fault is a fracture along which the blocks of crust on either side have moved relative to one another parallel to the fracture. What happens is, Earth has three layers. The first one is crust. This is the first layer. The second one is mantle. And third is core. So along this lithospheric zone, till the crust and this upper mantle is meeting, here Earth is broken into several zones. This is known as plates. And along these plates we have two adjoining plates where some gap persists, and basically this gap persisted, which is known as fault. So there are major faults and minor faults. Along with the minor faults, the problem of seismicity is not that high, but along with the major faults, where the two plates are bypassing each other, subsiding, or some depression is there, diffusion is there, or collision is there. Wherever this activity is taking place, the immense force being generated, and that force actually disturb the internal rocks which are in the fault areas, and those that release of energy through the gaps wherever it is finding along with the fault lines, the waves come up, the primary waves and secondary waves, they come up, and with the addition of the surface waves, that creates a destruction over the surface of the earth. So the fault is very important to study about the endogenetic forces and endo earth forces, that what sort of activities are going inside the earth structure. So here again, a fault is a fracture along which the blocks of crust on either side have moved relative to one another parallel to the fracture. So let's say this is the fracture, this is one plate, this is another. So here this is known as the fault line. When an earthquake occurs on one of these faults, the rock on one side of the fault slips with respect to the other. This is what we said, because in this fault we have rocks, massive rocks. So the collision between these rocks actually produces energy. And along with the fault line, this energy, wherever it is finding the gap, reaches top surface. The fault surface can be vertical, horizontal, or at some angle to the surface of the earth. So this is basically an idea of faults and the phenomena of earthquake we are having. Now, there are two important regions in the news today about Siachen and Sur Creek. So let's see what is there. This is basically in the context of statement quoted by Army Chief General Mr. Manoj Naravne, that we are not averse to demilitarization of the Siachen glacier, but the precondition is Pakistan has to accept the actual ground position line, AGPL. This is what Army Chief of India has said. We are not averse means that we are ready to take our forces back from the point of Siachen glacier, which is the world's highest altitude battlefield. But the condition is that Pakistan should accept the actual ground position line. So what is this all context about? We have to look into. The line of control, LOC, had been delineated to a point called NJ9842. This is important for prelims. Thus this NJ9842 is in context of what it is, Siachen. And thereafter the understanding was that it will remain unoccupied. But Pakistan had made an attempt to occupy territory and we were forced to take our countermeasures. Here this is talking about the Siachen glacier region. Siachen glacier region. Here this is the largest glacier in the world outside the polar regions. Number one thing. And this is also the highest battlefield in the world. And one of the ironic and interesting fact here is that the army personnel of both the sides do not lose their lives by getting into the fights or into the quarrels. Rather, the soldiers of both the sides are losing their lives because of the climatic conditions there, because of the avalanches there, because of the landslides there, and because of the other severe weather related conditions there. India and Pakistan also has this understanding that nobody would go to that region, and therefore we would not get into any kind of obstruction or any kind of forceful confrontation in that region, because it is not at all possible for the forces of either side to go there and to get into the fight or any kind of confrontation with each other. Yet when one party is not abiding by this clause, then the other party has to take the countermeasures. This is what Mr. Army Chief has said. Now, Siachen and Sar Creek is in Gujarat region, basically. Gujarat region, we will be looking into it. Sar Creek and Siachen have long been termed low-hanging fruits in past for resolution between India and Pakistan, and the two countries have held 13 rounds of defense secretary level talks on Siachen, and the last one was in June 2012. Low-hanging fruits, that means that Siachen, world's toughest battle region, we can have an understanding that we will not go there, and we will not create any kind of suspicion which might be a negative action towards the sovereignty of each country. The second is Sar Creek, since we can actually settle this dispute, is lying on the land. It is in the braided channels of Arabian Sea, so we can actually speak about that, and these two issues could be resolved with talks and conversation. This is what here low hanging fruits means. Now see this, the position. This is basically Pakistan administered Kashmir. This is known as Pakistan occupied Kashmir as well, POK. Here Gilgit-Baltistan are two major administrative regions, basically are controlled by Pakistan, but these belong to India because India was there first, and from here Pakistan was carved out, and this region has always been disputed because Pakistan sent their infiltrators in this region in 1948 First Kashmir War. This is line of control, this is what we say, this one, and here this is Aksai Chin. This region, Chinese administered, this part is known as LAC, line of actual control. This is LOC, line of control. This is line of actual control. And here this is the Siachen part, Siachen Glacier. That is NJ9842. This part is known as Siachen Glacier. This is what UPSC asked, that what is the position of Siachen Glacier? East of Aksai Chin, west of POK, west of Gilgit-Baltistan, north of Jammu. This is how UPSC framed this question. And in 1951-52, when Pakistan was trying to make the friendship with China, so under that gesture, Pakistan actually ceded the part of this region which is known as the China claimed POK part, which was given by Pakistan to China in 1951-52 under the Friendship Treaty. But in that treaty, there is an article called Article 5 that states that the status quo maintained since 1951-52 will have a different position if the POK is actually changed its position in favor of India. So that means there is still a scope left in that treaty under which this region was ceded to China by Pakistan in 1951-52 as per Article 5 clause. This is the position. Now, the Siachen Glacier is located in the extreme north central part, Jammu and Kashmir, near the Indo-Tibetan border. It is the largest glacier in the world outside the polar regions. Important. It lies in eastern Karakoram range, a mountain system originating from the Pamir. Siachen has nothing to do with the Himalayas, always remember. This area is the most glaciated area outside the polar region, comprising of 22 glaciers at the altitude of 5,400 meters above the sea level. The glacier's melting water is the main source of water for the Nubra River, which further falls into the Shyok River, which is notable tributary of Indus River. So the glacier of Siachen melting into Nubra, then it is falling into Shyok, and it is the main contributory of Indus River going to Pakistan. A ceasefire has been holding since November 2003 with Indian troops stationed on the upper part of the glacier and Pakistani troops the lower part of the glacier. The vast majority of the estimated 2,700 Indian and Pakistani troop deaths have not been due to combat, but avalanches, exposure and altitude sickness caused by the thin oxygen depleted air. look at the irony that the most precious life of our army personnel being lost due to the adverse weather conditions in Siachen. Without fighting, without anything. So this is basically an ardent position of Pakistan where India is ready to vacate this area, considering that this area or this weather is not supportive of human conditions. Hence, we should not get our issues sorted here by any sort of combat or confrontation between these two nations. But Pakistan is again very notorious in nature, not willing to hear to this, and this is why 2700 Indian and Pakistani coming together are losing their lives to the natural reasons, not through the combat. Now, Operation Meghdoot. In April 1984, India urgently dispatched troops to Siachen under secret Operation Meghdoot to vacate these regions through the mountaineering activities. Oropolitics. This oropolitics is a new term in this context. Oropolitics or mountaineering with a political goal. So this Operation Meghdoot was actually India won because of that mountaineers made exact map of this region. And recently that great mountaineer actually was awarded Padam Shri by Government of India, who actually did this commendable job of mapping this area. He was just a mountaineer and he went there, he made a map of this entire region, and that actually helped defense services in a big way. Now, climate change and more avalanches. Landslides and avalanches. Avalanches is basically the falling of major chunk of ice, or it's the dislocation of glacier. Dislocation of glacier. When we see the mountains, the top of the mountains we see is snow covered. We believe that these are the glaciers. No, the glaciers are basically the part where the ice is concentrated in a big area. These are known as the glacier. Landslide and avalanches are common in the region during winter when temperatures can drop to minus 60 degrees Celsius and the ice becomes so heavy that it is not able to held back over its position. Hence, it starts sliding down. This is known as avalanches. Both minimum and maximum winter temperatures on the glaciers were showing steadily upward trends. But these upward trends are not uniform. They fluctuate a lot. That cracks the ice and makes an avalanche more likely. Medical problems on the glaciers. That what sort of problems are military personnel facing? High altitude pulmonary edema. This accounts for most deaths from high altitude illness. Acute mountain sickness, frostbite, blizzards, chilblains, hypothermia, snow blindness. Avalanches. Snow blindness means like seeing everything white. Everything white whenever eyes remain open. So this causes snow blindness. Avalanches, crevasses are caused where the glaciers takes turn on their outer sides and movement of glaciers, and fires due to fuel usage. Carbon monoxide poisoning, problems in disposal of night soil. Now, important glaciers we have to look into. Baltoro Glacier. Baltoro Glacier is located in Jammu and Kashmir in an area called Baltistan on the southern slopes of the central Karakoram range. It is the second largest glacier in the Himalayan region. Now, Shigar River, which is a tributary of the Indus River, originates from this glacier, which is Baltoro. So Baltoro is in the Baltistan region. Baltistan region. Now, Okjokul Glacier. This is very important because you will see This Okjokul glacier became the first ice landing glacier lost due to climate change, and there is now a small memorial plaque at the location, which is a letter for future generations warning against climate change. You can see in the satellite map the glacier was of this big, and now this is just a plaque which is symbolizing that there was a glacier sometime, which is a bad sign and the great highlights of climate change in the condition that we need glaciers for the continuous perennial nature of our North Indian rivers for the maintenance, because in the low lying areas or plains of areas almost 30 crore Indians are dependent on the rivers, which are being fed constantly by the melting of glaciers. Hence this water cycle is need to be maintained, and if we are losing our glaciers, then definitely fresh water will be a massive problem, and hence the human will kill humans for the water, even more than the gold, diamonds and whatsoever. The melted glacier was the subject of the 2018 documentary Not Okay. So this Not Okay documentary was related to this Okjokul glacier depletion. What is Sar Creek in this context? Sar Creek, friends, this is Pakistani region, this is India, and this is basically the creek line is the international border line between India and Pakistan. This channel, which is part of this braided channel, which is going into the Arabian Sea, and it is separating the Sindh region of Pakistan with the Gujarat Kutch region. Here this is known as Sar Creek. It is also known as Banganga. Sar Creek is a 96-kilometer strip of water disputed between India and Pakistan in the run of Kutch marshlands. Originally named Banganga, Sar Creek is named after British representative. The creek opens up in the Arabian Sea and roughly divides the Kutch region of Gujarat from the Sindh province of Pakistan. The dispute lies in the interpretation of the maritime boundary line between Kutch and Sindh. Pakistan claims the entire creek as per paragraphs 9 and 10 of the Bombay Government Resolution of 1914 signed between the government of Sindh and Rao Maharaj of Kutch. Since it was a princely state in this time, then the Rao Maharaj of Kutch had an agreement with the government of Sindh, because the Sindh was a province in 1914 during the British time. So according to the paragraph of 9 and 10, this is still making the fundamental base of this dispute. The resolution which demarcated the boundaries between the two territories included the creek as part of Sindh, thus setting the boundary as the eastern flank of the creek, popularly known as Green Line. But India claims that the boundary lies mid-channel as depicted in another map drawn in 1925 and implemented by the installation of mid-channel pillars back in 1924. What is the importance? You don't have to go back into this detail of learning this years. No, but we just have to understand the position, what is the dispute and who signed it. What's the importance of Sar Creek? Apart from strategic location, Sar Creek's core importance is fishing resources. We'll be talking about this now. Sar Creek is considered to be among the largest fishing grounds in Asia. Another vital reason is the possible presence of great oil and gas concentration under the sea, which are currently unexploited thanks to the impending deadlock on the issue. Now, just try to understand carefully that as we have seen that it is one of the most important fishing ground for Indian fishermen. Let me just make some way out here. This region is important fishing ground. So obviously the people from this region also or would like to go there for fishing, because they are dependent on the local economy based on the natural resources, and the people living here would also come to these places. Here, talking about Indian fishermen, when they are going there for fishing activities, due to the disturbed or absence of clearly demarcated lines along with the Sar Creek region, the Pakistani naval police actually takes the capture of these Indian fishermen along with their boats. They seize their boats, they seize their equipments, they seize their trawlers and whatsoever. And the arrest which is done in the Sar Creek region now taken to the areas of Lahore, Islamabad, Peshawar, Rawalpindi, in that region's jails, so that these people under the charges of spying in the country of Pakistan, they are taken to the northern regions of Pakistan in northern districts like Punjab area. When after the deliberate discussions and dialogues or pressure created by the Indian government, Indian External Affairs Ministry over the government of Pakistan, then they are released. But they are released, this is the issue here, they are released from the Baga border region. And Baga border region is lying in the Amritsar area, which is a plain area. And there they are only released, not their equipments, not their boats, not their trawlers and whatsoever equipments they were actually arrested along with, these are not released. So this is a great economic loss to the people who are simply just trying to make their 2 square meal arranged by getting into the economic activities named as fishing in the natural harbors that belong to the Indians or Indian sovereign nation along with the nautical miles concept. So this is the Sar Creek issue here and this fishing community problem. Now, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas. This is an UN agency that settles the law of seas like maritime boundaries and related issues, and recently it actually favored the Southeast Asian nation claims over the South China Sea region. South China Sea region, where China claims the majority of the maritime area by creating the artificial islands, and it says that the 9-dash line present in that region is making the entire area a part of the sovereign Chinese territory. So, but China said that we do not agree to this judgment, and hence they did not follow the judgment. So that makes the China a naughty nation or notorious nation. Now, UNCLOS supports India's stand regarding Sar Creek. If Thalweg principle is to be upheld, Pakistan would lose a considerable portion of the territory that was historically part of the province of Sindh. Under international law, a Thalweg is the middle of the primary navigable channel, of a waterway that defines the boundary line between states. Let's say the middle of the channel here lies this way or this way. This is the Thalweg principle, that in any disputed region, the central part of the disputed region should be demarcated as the international line if it is going straight. Since it is not going straight deep inside it, so the connecting part in this way could become the maritime boundary. So if this is the principle, India is just now claiming this region as its own. So this paragraph states that if Thalweg principle was implemented or stated, then Pakistan would lose considerable part of the region. Acceding to India's stance would mean shifting of the land sea terminus point several kilometers to the detriment of Pakistan, leading in turn to a loss of several thousand square kilometers of its exclusive economic zone under United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea. So this is what we say, is that said if India should, or let's say if Pakistan is not abiding by to it amicably, then India should quote and claim Thalweg principle, and that will get more territory to Indian region. So this is how only notorious neighbors can be taught a lesson.